For our daily cancellation today, we must cancel Jerry Seinfeld. It's a bit of a sad moment for me. I've always liked Jerry Seinfeld. His show was a touch overrated, but still one of the greatest television comedies of all time, no doubt about that. He hasn't created a solid piece of entertainment, whether a film or a TV show, since Seinfeld went off the air 25 years ago, despite multiple attempts. But even so, he is undeniably one of the great comics. And over the years, he has shown a willingness to speak out against hyper-PC culture and the deleterious effect that it has on comedy. He spoke out most explicitly in an interview with The New Yorker recently, where he said that the extreme left, in his words, is killing comedy. Now, as far as I can remember, it was the first time that he had directly called out the left. Now, not exactly an act of bravery. He's a 70-year-old comedian who's worth over $1 billion. So he's not putting much on the line by talking about these issues, but many of us appreciated it all the same. That is, until the interview he just did with fellow comedian Tom Papa this week, where he backtracked on all of it.
I did an interview. So there were two things that I have to say I regret saying and that I have to take back. And I said that the extreme left has suppressed the art of comedy. Mm-hmm. I did say that.
Yeah.
That's not true. It's not true.
No?
No. Again, you want to go back? Let's go back to our solid liquid analogy.
Okay.
And the other thing that I have said about this, if you're Lindsey Vonn, if you're a champion skier, you can put the gates anywhere you want on the mountain. She's going to make the gate.
Right.
That's comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever the culture is, we make the gate. Mm-hmm. You don't make the gate, you're out of the game. The game is, where is the gate? How do I make the gate and get down the hill in the way I want to? So does culture change? And are there things I used to say that I can't say, that everybody's always moving? Yeah, but that's the biggest, easiest target. You know, you can't say certain words,
right?
You know, whatever they are, versus about groups. So what? So these larger cultural themes of this is not considered acceptable, this is not acceptable.
Yeah.
So I don't think as I said, the extreme left has done anything to inhibit the art of comedy.
Right.
I'm taking that back now officially.
Gotcha.
They have not.
Right.
Do you like it? Maybe, maybe not. It's not my business to like or not like where the culture is at.
Yeah.
It's my business to make the gate.
Wow, what a profile and courage. An inspiration for the ages is Jerry Seinfeld. Now, needless to say, this is a cowardly retreat. All the more cowardly because of how unnecessary it was. People talked about his original comments condemning the extreme left for about half a day and then moved on. At this point, he may as well have said it 600 years ago. He didn't need to issue any clarification, much less a full retraction and apology, but he was obviously quite disturbed by the pushback, however mild and fleeting it may have been. Jerry Seinfeld never had much edge to begin with, but whatever edge he may have had at one point, he has now lost, obviously. And we've seen this devolution, and it's been quite sad and tragic. We've seen it with nearly all of the greatest and most influential comedians and entertainers and cultural figures of his generation, the ones who are still alive. They've pretty much all retreated and gotten duller and blander with age. Howard Stern is another prime example. And we've talked about that many times. People often lament that George Carlin, who's obviously, he would be older, he's a generation above Seinfeld, but people often lament that George Carlin isn't around anymore to lampoon the woke insanity. What they don't understand is that if he was around, he would almost certainly be in the Howard Stern and Jerry Seinfeld camp. I mean, you should be thanking God. If you like George Carlin stuff, you should be thanking God he's not around. Okay, because he would be doing stand-up sets about how Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. He'd be doing a hilarious rant about why it's lame to disrespect a person's preferred pronouns. That would totally be what he would be doing. That's been the trajectory for nearly all of these people. Even Bill Burr has gotten distinctly more PC with age, like a lot more. Now, you would think it would go the opposite way. As you get older and richer, you'd give less of a damn what anyone says or thinks. But in most cases, the combination of age and wealth has a neutering effect. And these guys are comfortable with their place in life. They're fat and happy. The last thing they want to do is rock the boat, which is probably why it'd be best if most comedians just retired at 50, so we don't have to see them like this. Like it's just sad and pathetic and painful to witness. And case in point, Seinfeld now says that the job of a comedian is to make the gate. I mean, I can't think of a worse, a more wrong-headed way of explaining what a comedian's supposed to do. And this is coming from a legendary comedian. But what he says is that the culture sets out the boundaries, draws the course, and a comedian is supposed to operate within those boundaries, supposed to navigate the course, follow the guideposts. Stay on the path that the culture has created for you. Use the words they tell you to use. Avoid the language they tell you to avoid. Talk about this subject, not that one. These things are forbidden. Avoid those. This is comedy, according to the brave and bold Jerry Seinfeld. Comedy is following the rules, making the gate, staying in the lane, driving the speed limit, to mix metaphors. After doing stand-up comedy for like 50 years, this is Seinfeld's great insight. Half a century in the business, and he now sounds like a court jester performing a set for Kim Jong-un in North Korea. Isn't it hilarious? Isn't it so funny to follow the rules exactly and never offend your audience under any circumstances? Isn't that cool, kids? This is what the cool people do. That's true comedy. Now, the reality, of course, is the opposite. The primary job of a comedian, the most essential role of comedy in any society, is not to make the gate and follow the course, but to question why the gate is there and not over there. Why does the course go this way, but not that way? You can't find the humor and absurdity in the boundaries if you're not willing to push them. That doesn't mean that comedy always has to be intentionally outrageous or intentionally offensive just for the sake of it, but it does have to be aware of the ridiculous aspects of the culture, the rules that don't make any sense. And it has to be willing to lampoon those rules, which will always risk upsetting the people who put the rules in place. This is why the left can't do comedy anymore. It's why comedians like Bill Burr have gotten much less funny as they've become more liberal. Like walking on the path without questioning it or without venturing off of it, that may be the safest thing, and it may be the easiest. It's not funny, though. There's never been a good adventure story about a guy walking on a marked trail from point A to point B and never leaving it. There's also never been a funny comedy with that premise. A comedian doesn't just make the gate, he critiques it, he questions it, he makes observations about it, he points to its idiosyncrasies, he might even crash directly into it on purpose. He does anything but unquestioningly follow it. Otherwise, he is, at best, a boring and lame and redundant comedian. At worst, he's not a comedian at all, but a propagandist, a whore for the cultural powers that put the gates up in the first place. And such a pathetic specimen as that might still make us laugh, but we're laughing at him, not with him. And there's certainly a significant difference between the two, and that is why Jerry Seinfeld is today, sadly, canceled. Hey, YouTube, thanks for listening to the show. If you'd like access to my full show with no ads, you should go to dailywire.com and use promo code Walsh to get 2 months free on all annual plans. See you there.